Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. Mercifully, the Pacific Northwest has escaped the heat dome, blanketing a large portion of the eastern U.S. The temperature may remind you of western Washington in June 2021. The oppressive heat set records across the region. A new lawsuit claims the world's largest oil companies are to blame for the blistering temperatures and the death of at least one woman. We'll learn more in a minute, but first, let's get you caught up. If you're in the Capitol Hill neighborhood today, you might see a picket outside Seattle Central College. Workers are protesting the college's plan to lay off 24 employees and furlough others. The affected workers are represented by the Washington Federation of State Employees, which is organizing the picket. It begins at noon on the corner of Broadway and Pine. We've been talking a lot about AI on the show this week, and here's something new. Seattle area businesses are relatively upbeat about the future of artificial intelligence, according to a new survey from Umpqua Bank. More than half of small and mid-sized local businesses think AI will cause them to add jobs over the next year. The Puget Sound Business Journal reports that just 7% of survey respondents expected to lose jobs because of AI. For the survey, the bank polled nearly 1,300 decision makers at small and medium-sized businesses nationwide. And King County Councilmember Reagan Dunn has a new proposal he says will help address the eviction backlog. The plan would allow King County Superior Court to create 3 new court commissioners to process eviction cases. Dunn's office says there's a current backlog of more than 1,400 eviction cases in King County. KUOW has reported the backlog is so bad, many low-income tenants are going without legal representation in their eviction cases, despite a law that gives them the right to counsel. Check back for more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. At least 100 people died in Washington as a result of the June 2021 heat dome, according to the Department of Health. Seattle reached an all-time record high of 108 degrees on June 28th, the same day Julie Leon died of hyperthermia. She overheated. Now, Julie's daughter Misty is suing 7 oil companies, BP, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, Olympic Pipeline, Phillips 66, and Shell, alleging they downplayed the climate risk of fossil fuels. Attorneys for Chevron said the suit is, quote, contrary to the law, science, and common sense, and is an attempt to exploit a personal tragedy. We reached out to other companies and either didn't hear back or they declined to comment. More than 24 cities, counties, and states have sued big oil companies, claiming they intentionally deceived the public on the dangers of fossil fuels. But this is the first ever wrongful death lawsuit. It was filed in May in King County Superior Court. Misty Leon and attorney Tim Bechtold are here now. Misty, Tim, really appreciate you taking the time. Very sorry about your mother.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about Julie, your mom.
My mom was a very extroverted and gregarious person. She had a large zest for life. She always looked towards the positive in things. We were very close. We spoke multiple times a day. She was just kind of the glue that held everything together for us.
Tell me what happened on the day she passed.
I had actually talked to her the night before, and I was fortunate enough to have one of those really great 2-hour-long conversations with her, and it started about nothing. And then we wound up talking about everything, and she was really excited for the summer and the plans we were going to make. She had a doctor's appointment the next morning. She headed to her doctor's appointment, and I messaged her. She told me that she was there. She would get back with me, and I went about my day, and I didn't hear from her. Did all the things you're supposed to do. Eventually, when it was a little too long to have not heard from her, I started making some phone calls. And yeah, I was very abruptly informed that she had passed away. And unfortunately, the medical examiner was really far behind in notifying people because they had had a lot of deaths that day.
That sounds awful. Was your mother in good health? Was this unexpected for you?
This was the most unexpected thing I could have thought of. She was in very good health. Like I said, we had a lot of plans coming up. Yeah, it just came out of nowhere.
Wow. Wow. And this was during the 2021 heat dome. It was very hot.
Yes, I had been talking to her. Like I said, we spoke every day. We were all talking about it, just saying how abnormal it was, kind of waiting for the heat to dissipate a bit.
What made you want to bring this case to court, Misty?
It's really about accountability. I never in a million years would have guessed that this would be how I lose my mom. There's so many other things that you're worried about with the people you love. This was nowhere near on my radar. And then to find out that these companies had information that they could have done something with, and they made a choice not to, and they kept that from the public, and they lied to me. They lied to my mom. And at the end of the day, it's my mom who's not with me anymore. So that was a choice they made.
Tim, researchers found the 2021 heat dome would have been virtually impossible without man made climate change. How does that factor into your lawsuit?
Researchers have found is that the delta, the change in the alteration of the climate was exacerbated by the contributions from these oil companies. And the point is the researchers and the scientists at the oil companies were aware of this many years ago. And they actually they know how much their share of the contribution to climate alteration is. This is no secret to the oil companies. It's only been a secret to the general public and certainly to Misty.
These oil companies you're suing are very large. Do you feel a sense of scale of this lawsuit?
My perspective on it is that I lost my mom, and she was the most influential person in my life. And there's nothing that can bring her back. And it's the biggest loss in my life. Over the last few years, I've realized that some of the greatest parts of my mom that I always appreciated, I am starting to see in me as well. I feel that not only is this the right thing to do, but it's the right thing to do to honor my mom. And it is absolutely necessary to do so that no one else has to potentially face this type of loss in their life.
Tim, climate change is a huge phenomenon. No single person, country, or company is solely responsible. How did you determine who you believe is culpable in this suit?
Well, actually, the deliberate climate alteration caused by these companies is something that's actually well known to the scientific community. And as I mentioned earlier, is certainly well known to these companies themselves. They know down to the very smallest amount how much they've contributed to climate alteration. They've known that for many years, and they've predicted 50 years ago what the situation would be like today based upon their anticipated contributions to climate alteration. I've often heard people call this climate change, but it's really climate alteration. This is a deliberate alteration of our climate by these companies. They set out to do this with the very known risk of altering our climate, that this is all for money. They are an incredibly profitable industry, and the cost to our planet and to Misty's mom is incalculable.
The lawsuit assumes had companies been more transparent, something would be different today. How do you know?
Well, it's not a matter of knowing, but what it's a matter of showing that it's more likely than not that had they made the public aware of what they knew about how they were altering the climate and what the results of that alteration would be. Mind you, they predicted very, very accurately what our climate would be like today based upon the effects they knew that they were contributing to altering our climate. So had people been aware of this and had they taken steps to proactively change our dependence nationwide and globally on the fossil fuel industry, we wouldn't be in the same situation we are today.
Misty, are you hoping beyond this case, no matter what the outcome is, it will get enough attention to speak to people?
That's the only way that change happens is once people become aware of the situation, then something can be done. This seems so unique of a situation, and it's not anything I would have ever guest that I would find myself in, I find the value and the importance of sharing this situation and making people aware of it. I certainly can't bring my mom back through any of this, but what I can do is bring an awareness, and hopefully people really start thinking this through and a different course of action is taken.
Misty Leon is the plaintiff in a lawsuit against 7 oil companies who she argues is responsible for the death of her mother. Tim Bechtold is the lead attorney in the suit. Misty, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for having us, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now, and big thanks to our newest financial supporters, Wasik, Joshua, Clint, Harry, and Iris. We really appreciate you. Today's episode was produced by Vaughn Jones. It was edited by Andy Hurst. Our production team also includes Caroline Chamberlain-Gomez, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.